Well, their defense is really good. They employ a matchup zone. I think they're pretty similar in terms of philosophy-wise, who takes the ball in certain spots, but they play with a lot more hands, a lot more activity. They try to turn you over. They try to pressure the ball a little less than Seton Hall does. So that's maybe where the differences come into play, just the amount of pressure that UC employs, both in the half court and the full court.
I asked some of the guys, do you guys enjoy the opportunity now that it's back on campus? Do you enjoy the opportunity to kind of go in there and be the first to spoil now that this new agreement's been reached, be the first to spoil their big night at UC?
I don't think of it in that terms. We think of it as a big game. It's obviously a huge rivalry, and we just have to be prepared for tomorrow night, not give it any type of perspective based on where the game used to be or the fact that it's returned to campuses. That doesn't really come into my line of thinking.
I'm sure it's something you go through every year. How do you get the kids to focus on the X's and O's and you can celebrate after? Or maybe does it change group by group?
I mean, to me, the Crosstown's always been more of a player's game. You know, guys at this point in time understand X's and O's on both teams. They understand what we're trying to do offensively, at times defensively. And then Cincinnati understands their system through and through. So it's not a big X's and O's chess match. It's so loud. Guys have to make plays. Generally, kids step up that maybe in the past haven't had much of a role, during the season. It's just guys step up and make plays, and some guys shrink.
Coach, you played and coaching it. You still excited? You still enjoy playing this matchup?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's great for the city. You know, the familiarity of both programs, fans, alums. You know, I got relatives that'll be rooting against me on Wednesday night, and that's okay. I'll be rooting against them.
Does not the guys not playing this summer league as much? I know the UC guys played this year, and with the new rules, there's not as much open gym with the guys coming over to play. Does the not having as much familiarity and playing together in the summer, does that change the attitude or temperament of the game at all, do you think?
I don't know. You'd probably have to ask our players that. You know, the bottom line is all these kids play in national AAU tournaments and all the events that you cover, throughout their whole growing up years. So I think the familiarity is still there. I'm sure they see one another at Kenwood Mall and social occasions and whatnot in the off season. But I mean, there's familiarity there still.
You have to play to appreciate the atmosphere. I mean, the guys that are from outside Cincinnati, you mentioned it to them, they seem a little vague about it. They've heard about it and stuff like that, but it almost seems like you have to get on the floor.
Yeah, I think so. You know, I think that, it's sort of up to the older guys to prepare the younger players for the type of atmosphere it's going to be. But we don't have a player in our program that's played over there. And so, but I think you can still, as an older player, talk about the experiences of the last couple of years, downtown, and the fact that it's going to be loud, it's going to be raucous, it's going to be a challenging team that we're playing, and all that goes into that. But I think generally players will get the vibe after the ball's thrown up, and for those newcomers, there'll be baptism by fire, so to speak.
Chris, usually this game is played earlier in the season, non-conference. Is it tougher in some ways to play a rivalry game, a physical game, so deep into the conference season?
Well, our conference has been so physical, so I don't know. I mean, it's on the schedule. It's where it's at, and we're going to play it. And we still, for the most part, over the last few weeks, have been going Wednesday, Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday. So, we just have one less league game during the week, and obviously we have a great opponent tomorrow night, a team that's going to play really hard. It's very talented. It's different from a year ago. But you put it outside of your conference schedule and sort of treat it as a separate entity, and then we'll worry about getting back to conference play when the game's over.
You said it's really not important about where it's being played as far as on campus or not, but do you think it will have a different feel tomorrow night, having been downtown the last couple of years and then back at the campus site?
Yeah. Not going to be as much blue in fifth, third. I mean, yeah, you don't have to coach in it or play in it to know it's going to have a different feel.
You're obviously been focused on your own program and all that, but what they've had to go through this year in terms of mixed health and all that, has that affected you at all, or have you thought about it, or I don't know if you've reached out to him, or how that's gone with you?
Yeah, I mean, it's eye-opening, because Mick's not in his twilight years of coaching, and for him to personally have to sort of set aside something that he loves and for the reasons that he had to was shocking, and I've reached out to Mick and we've talked. I don't know what his team has had to go through. I'm not over there every day. I know that, or at least I think, he organizes practice. He's a part of the program, but, without me being over there, I don't really have a great feel for it. Skip Prosser, and I texted this to Mick, Skip Prosser used to say, we have great jobs as head coaches, except for the games. And I said, somehow you managed to get Coach Prosser's dream job, to be head basketball coach and not coaching any games.
Is Brandon back at practice? Is he still hurt?
No, he's still out. He's still out. So
What's ailing him?
something with his quad, just sort of a quad pull. So he's sort of day to day until he's ready to go.
Coach, do you learn anything about playing in these kind of games? Do you think, obviously putting in that kind of environment and seeing how they react?
I don't know. Maybe it's too big of a question for me. I just think that it's one game. It's one game. And, we're going to be ready to play. Thanks.
Thanks, Chris.